There's a sinister habit that's not only keeping you a brokey, but is sabotaging your shot at success. And here's the shocking part. What if I told you the solution all the other YouTubers are giving you is the reason behind your relapses? Don't worry, this isn't like any other no-fap video you've watched, because I'm not just going to expose how fapping is destroying your life.
Stop it. Get some help.
I'm going to give you the keys to never relapse again. First, let's start by using science to explain not only why you watch porn, but why it is or is about to ruin your life. By discussing the neurotransmitter porn hijacks, dopamine. I know you don't want to hear this, but everything the Matrix told you about dopamine is wrong. The biggest misconception they teach you is that dopamine is a neurotransmitter released during pleasure. It's not. What causes you pleasure during an orgasm are endogenous opioids. So the million-dollar question is, what does dopamine do? The role of dopamine is simple yet extremely integral for you breaking out the Jeffrey cycle, and it's probably why they want to hijack your reward circuit. Dopamine is released not when experiencing pleasure, but rather in the pursuit of it. To put it simply, dopamine's role is to keep you motivated in the pursuit of a goal. That is why you spend hours trying to find that perfect porn video rather than settling for the video you jacked off to 2 hours ago. Now you're wondering, what is the point of releasing a neurotransmitter for the anticipation or expectation of a reward? And how does that make dopamine so important for me becoming the Abdullah I was meant to be? Let's go all the way back in evolutionary history to when organisms first evolved. During this time period, it was extremely difficult for us to find a mate and food. Therefore, the body needed to find a way to get us to go and search for it. That is where dopamine comes in. The body began producing dopamine to have us anticipate or expect a reward, giving us enough motivation to find our next meal or mate. Therefore, dopamine is the biological mechanism that drives delayed gratification, the one habit that if you master will help you hack the matrix. How dopamine drives delayed gratification is that most brokies cognitively inference that they are doing a new habit for a reward. For example, doing no fap because you think it will help you get laid, or thinking 225 pounds is going to get you all the chicks. Due to dopamine's relationship with time, this leads to difficulty getting through strong urges, as the lack of dopamine slows down our perception of time, making the urges seem like they're going on longer than they are. Instead, you want the release of dopamine to be associated with the enjoyment of the activity. Now that you understand how important dopamine is, how does porn hijack it? Porn is what we refer to as a super stimulus, a stimulus that produces a response above what naturally occurs. The activity that naturally produces the most amount of dopamine is orgasm. Porn is the juiced up version of this. Porn has been shown to be such a potent super stimulus that even monkeys give up food to see pictures of their favorite OnlyFans models. But Shahab, if porn releases so much dopamine and makes me feel so good, why do you keep on saying it is ruining my life? This is due to chronic porn use changing your brain in a manner very similar to heroin addicts. To explain this, we'll have to first go through the anatomy of your brain associated with the reward circuit. The reward circuit in your brain can be broadly split into 3 categories: the midbrain, the limbic system, and the frontal cortex. The midbrain's function is to relay information to the rest of the brain, and it houses something called the ventral tegmental area, which contains the dopamine-producing neurons for the reward circuit. On the other hand, the limbic system governs your emotions and houses your reward circuit. Remember this, the limbic system's main function is to avoid pain and repeat pleasure. Finally, the frontal cortex governs your rational decision-making processes. Let's put this all together. Your body receives a cue from the environment as a sensory stimulus, triggering an action potential or electrical impulse in your neurons. The midbrain will relay the electrical impulses to the limbic system, creating a craving. That craving will then send signals to your frontal cortex to trigger a response. Let's see if you can keep up as I tie this into addiction and the reward circuit. Let's go back to the dopamine-producing neurons in the ventral tegmental area, where we will focus on something we refer to as a synapse, the part of the brain where neurons connect and communicate with each other. The neuron sending the signal is referred to as the presynaptic neuron, while the neuron receiving and responding to the signal is a postsynaptic neuron, with the space between both being the synaptic cleft. How neurons signal to each other in the reward circuit is as so. An electric impulse will fire down the presynaptic neuron, signaling the release of dopamine-containing vesicles into the synaptic cleft. Once in the synaptic cleft, dopamine will diffuse to the D2 receptor on the postsynaptic neuron, where it will bind in the dopamine receptor's active site, triggering a signal pathway response in the postsynaptic neuron. If porn is consistently used, a transcription factor called delta FOSB is activated and will increase the expression of genes associated with addiction. Do you remember how porn is stimulus? What happens in your reward circuit when you watch porn is that your presynaptic neuron will release a lot more dopamine than what is naturally produced. If this routinely occurs, your body will begin to remove the D2 receptors on the postsynaptic neuron to have the body return to homeostasis. Through the loss of D2 receptors, you will begin to experience a blunted reward response, which is why you begin to feel less pleasure after spending the last 2 weeks jacking off to your favorite hentai. Do you want me to tell you something even worse than no longer enjoying your favorite hentai? Porn will not just make you into Jeffrey, but Dylan Mulvaney. How this occurs is through something referred to as the Coolidge effect. Since you are now receiving a blunted reward response to those FFM videos you love so much, your body will seek to get an equivalent or greater amount of dopamine release through more novel and extreme stimuli, upgrading you from FFM to gangbangs and eventually to gay porn. That is why you've watched gay porn at least once. Furthermore, exposure to acts of extreme perversion will make you more likely to act it out.
I like you and I want you. Now we can do this the easy way or we can do it the hard way. The choice is yours.
Why even Ted Bundy declared that porn leads to hypersexualized, violent thoughts. But wait, how is watching porn making me into such a beta? A blunted reward response from consistent porn use leads to low libido, sugar cravings, social anxiety, a lack of motivation, the inability to focus, low levels of concentration, and directly causes depression. No wonder you're a fat, lazy brokey, strung up on addies and antidepressants with no friends or shot at the girl you've been eyeing in your physics lecture. Oh man, porn really is ruining my life. But what if I told you it doesn't stop there? Porn was the reason why Sneako became a cuck before he manifested his inner Abdullah. If a set of neurons are constantly firing together, they will begin to wire together. And by regularly viewing porn, you've trained yourself to achieve an orgasm by passively observing the act of sex rather than being an active participant. Even if you manage to get a girl, you're either suffering from erectile dysfunction or just don't enjoy sex as much as you should. Most likely both. Your enjoyment of sex is stifled by a phenomenon referred to as the death grip syndrome. What you fail to realize when you started jacking off is that the grip your PP experiences when using your hands is a lot tighter than the vaginal orifice. Because of the tighter grip, persistent masturbation will begin to desensitize the nerves on your PP, making you not feel as stimulated as you should during the act of sexual intercourse. You can't have proper sex, you have no motivation, and you lack discipline. Not only that, no one wants to be your friend, and you have erectile dysfunction. Do you want to know how porn is what has not only ruined everything you've ever wanted, but has actually shrunk your penis? How orgasm is achieved depends on two parts of the nervous system, referred to as the parasympathetic nervous system, which is activated during a state of relaxation, and the sympathetic nervous system, which is activated during stress. During arousal, prior to orgasm, the parasympathetic nervous system must be activated as it dilates the blood vessels in your PP, allowing it to achieve a full erection, whilst the act of ejaculation occurs through the activation of the sympathetic nervous system. That is why, even though your PP may seem flaccid, you're still able to shoot your load. To grasp how the parasympathetic nervous system is not properly activated during fapping, we'll have to think back to the moments before you masturbated. First, you would look around to see if anyone's there. Lock your door, check the blinds, turn off the lights, and the most beta of you will cover yourself in the sheets. feelings. Why do you do this? Because you don't want to get caught. Associating feelings of stress with arousal. Because you're in a stressed state, the parasympathetic nervous system will not activate, and the vessels in your penis will not dilate, giving you erectile dysfunction. Moreover, have you ever felt empty and alone after masturbating? These feelings are explained by the physiology of orgasm. The act of arousal is governed by dopamine. The pleasure you feel is caused by the release of endogenous opioids. But after orgasm, you'll begin to release prolactin, which initiates the refractory period for pair bonding. Due to no mate being present, you experience the feelings of being alone and empty. Prolactin doesn't just stop there. It also lowers the amount of dopamine and testosterone in your body for prolonged periods.
No wonder you feel like such a Jeffrey. But Shahab, why does the Matrix keep telling me porn is good for my health?
Think about it. Porn serves as a way to neuter men without going through the hassle of doing so. Exactly what the Malthusian elites want you to do. Why? The Malthusian theory on population posits that the amount of resources on Earth increases linearly, while the human population increases at an exponential rate. Eventually, the human population will exceed the amount of resources on Earth, leading to a decrease in the quality of life and eventually the collapse of the human population. To avoid this, they are aiming to decrease the human population. And what's a better way to do that than to get you to stay at home and jerk off to hentai instead of piping Anastasia in your physics lecture?
If the Matrix wants me to do it and it's still bad for me, why do I keep on sapping?
Most young men who begin to masturbate do so because they lack meaning in their life, and porn gives them a short-term sense of purpose. Porn is something in Adlerian psychology referred to as a life lie, an emotional coping mechanism we engage in to avoid doing our life task, the responsibility we must bear throughout our life to achieve our self-ideal. But you are afraid of bearing the burden of responsibility and thus run away from your problems to avoid the pain you experience and to repeat your short-term pleasures. How do you expect yourself to take the necessary steps to become your self-ideal if you're afraid to confront responsibility, if you're afraid of the accountabilities of being a man? The reason why I'm so passionate about this is because I was just like you watching this video. 2 years ago, I was always tired, lazy, and unable to complete my daily tasks. So much so that I used jerking off as a method of escape. I eventually reached a breaking point, which occurred after waking up at 6 p.m. during the pandemic. I looked up with blurry eyes and a sense of dread. Is my life going to keep on going like this? How do I escape? Should I end it all? And as soon as I slightly moved my pelvis, I got the urge that I have felt so much shame and guilt for since I realized what it was doing to me. Unable to control myself, I go to the washroom, and the next thing you know, I'm paralyzed with fear. Why? Why did I do this again? What do I do? Who do I turn to for help? That's when it hit me. No one but me and God know what I'm going through. Upon the floor of my washroom, I swore on God and my legacy that if I didn't stop jerking off, I would willingly forfeit my future. Since that epiphany, it has been 2 years since I jerked off. And if I can do it, you can too. Thus, do not lose hope, for even in your darkest hour, God is near. That wasn't the only thing that helped me overcome jerking off. I had to figure out what to do to stop myself from ever fapping again, which is when I implemented the following solutions. But before I finally give you the solutions you're looking for, I want to start by telling you that despite you doing a tremendous amount of damage to your brain and psyche, you can still recover. The brain is incredibly plastic, and with the implementation of these solutions, you will be able to not only reset your brain, but make it better than ever. The first solution to stop relapsing is to stop watching no-fap videos.
Bruh, aren't you making a no-fap video?
Yes, because after watching this video and thoroughly implementing the solutions I give you, you will not need to watch another no-fap video. The reason you should not be watching no-fap videos and why it is the reason for your relapses has to do with the priming effect. The priming effect posits that the exposure to a stimulus will subconsciously influence the response to a subsequent stimulus. When you're watching a no-fap video, you are exposing yourself to the act of porn, due to the association you have between porn and NoFap, resulting in porn being on the top of your head, making it more likely to have your thoughts move towards the acts of jacking off. I'm not gonna lie, whilst researching this video for the first time since I can remember, even I had urges. Once you've stopped watching NoFap videos, you want to begin noticing what cues trigger your cravings. You do this by finding the time and place that you feel the greatest urge. During this specific time, you want to engage in activities that aid in neurogenesis in a completely different location. Activities that engage in neurogenesis include meditation, working out, reading books, and developing skills. The next solution is that anytime you want to feel the desire for sex, you want to begin to master the art of sexual transmutation. The main purpose of sexual desire is creation, with reproduction being the biological aspect of creation. Sexual desire can be channeled into a creative pursuit instead of reproduction. What I'm about to tell you may sound like a bunch of woo-ha, but it works like magic. First, start by closing your eyes and begin to imagine yourself moving all the energy pent up in your pelvic region to the rest of your body. This will allow you to get out of your head and stay in the present moment, temporarily removing the urge and allowing you to gain a deeper sense of focus on your task. Trust me, I did it right now and it worked like a charm. If you take one thing from this video, it's this: find meaning in your life. That meaning will allow you to bear a tremendous amount of suffering, because the one with the why can survive any how. How you find meaning in life is a topic for a separate video, but I will summarize it for you quickly. To find meaning, we'll learn as many new things as possible, find what piques your interest, and do more research on that topic. Eventually, it will become a passion, and once you find a function for that passion, it becomes a purpose. Before I end this video, I want to address all the bozos that say,
I only jerk up once a week or once a month, and I don't even watch porn. But BC over here jerks up 6 times a day. She has the problem, not me.
wrong. You have a problem, and in my opinion, it's worse than those who are chronically fapping and know they have to get better. I don't care if you've jerked off once a month. If you from yesterday faps, then you of today should be working to never do it again. Also, why are you looking at BC when your own house is unclean? When you stand in front of God, do you think he's going to judge you in comparison to what Jeffrey and BC did? No. He will judge you on your sins and yours alone, as God will not charge a soul except for what it has done.